Who doesn't love a late bloomer? And especially this time of year when other plants are starting to fade, there are options that are going to give you lots of color in your garden. I'm here in Estill Springs with my good friend Suzanne Caldwell of RCS Greenhouse. And Suzanne, you have some beautiful options for us.
Thank you.
Blooms don't have to fade when the summer fades.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, all these that we have here are all annuals, but they make it the season longer. These two on the end, the Mexican bush sage and the pineapple sage, these are annuals that I just feel like you really need to have. They don't bloom until later in the season. Usually, I'm trying to think, usually starting in August. Sometimes you'll find them in greenhouses where they will have the blooms on them, but you can cut those old blooms off. And like I say, mine are blooming at home right now. They're gorgeous, they're beautiful. I stood beside mine today just to see how big they were. My pineapple sage, I'm 5'6", and my pineapple sage was about this tall, which I guess, what is that, 4.5 feet maybe, something like that. And my Mexican bush sage was about the same height, and but my pineapple sage was very wide, about 4 feet wide.
So just buy them in the spring when you buy all of your other plants, but then have patience with them.
Exactly.
And know that they're coming, they're just going to come a little later than everything else.
Exactly. And hummingbirds love them, all your pollinators, bees, butterflies, hummingbirds. And it's usually something later in the season when the hummingbirds and the butterflies are migrating. They've got somewhere to stop and have a snack on their way.
Absolutely.
You know, through their migration.
Okay, now so this doesn't bloom, but I love the foliage. So talk to us about this plant.
Well, this is just your regular Dracaena spikes. A lot of people purchase it in the spring to use as centerpieces, but you can also extend it. It will actually last in cold weather down to about 20 degrees-ish, something like that. But what I usually do, I'll take out my old annuals and I'll put in maybe my pansies or your other maybe perennials that maybe you're going to use. But I'll plant it kind of close to the spike. And then if the freeze does get it, just go down in there, trim it out, and your other plants should cover your hole. You might have a small hole, but nothing major. It'll still be pretty.
Still be nice. And speaking of plants that you could plant around it,
yes,
you've got two really beautiful options here that would cover that.
Yes,
if you were to cut it back.
Well, for a little while, this is a little bit similar to the spikes. Usually, all three of these, when it starts getting regular hard freezes, well, that usually is what gets them. But that could be all the way, depending on weather, that could be all the way in January.
Correct.
When that happens.
Right.
You know. But these right here, these are kale. You can get the cabbage version too, which is the smooth leaf version. And what happens is when it gets cooler, the veins, like on the purple, will turn this hot, hot pink color. And on the green, they turn this really bright white color. I just think they're worth it, even though they may not last the full season. I just think they're just worth it because of the intense color.
Well, and just the difference in foliage.
Yes,
is
exactly.
Nice too.
Yes, exactly. I just think it's a just really nice compliment, and I kind of prefer the cabbage the kale over the cabbage just because of the rough leaves.
And do these have the same sun habits?
Oh yes, definitely. Yes, they're very compatible with your spikes. Yes, sun, you could probably do a little partial shade. These guys do like full sun. They could probably handle some partial shade, but are happier in just full, all-out, hot blazing sun.
So even if you have them planted near a tree, when it starts to lose its leaves in the fall, these are still going to blossom?
Until a hard frost will kill them, yes, they will still blossom.
Great. I love these annual options. And now we're looking at perennials that also give some pop. Talk to us about this, because we've got old and new growth on this plant.
Yeah, this is Autumn Fire sedum. It is an approved version of Autumn Joy. This is the newer bloom right here, and as it gets older, it turns more rust color, and it blooms late. It usually starts somewhere in August or September, early September, and it just when everything else is gone, you know,
you've still got
some color. Exactly.
And speaking of color, oh my goodness, and these two together are beautiful. I love these two colors together.
I know. This is Grape Crush Aster. I like this, number one, because purple is one of my favorite colors. It's just so bright and pretty. And it's supposed to be a little tighter, blooms a little bit more than other asters, not supposed to flop as much. It's just a good aster. Really pretty.
And you've had this all summer long, and tell us how to keep it blooming, because coreopsis is a mainstay in people's gardens.
This one is sun-kissed, and you can see here where I have cut back through the summer the older blooms, and that just promotes the new ones coming up and will make it last. It's been blooming since June continually.
So don't be afraid to chop on it.
Not at all, not at all.
Grasses, how can you go wrong with grasses? They're the easiest thing in the world to grow. And look what we've got going on now.
Yeah, that is pink muley grass, and that is the hallmark of pink muley grass, are the pink little fluffy blooms that it does late in the season. And it's a shorter grass, and like you say, grasses are easy. They usually like it on the drier side. Once established, a little bit drought tolerant. Yeah, super duper easy. Super duper.
All grasses are about to show out.
Exactly, exactly. This is Gracillus or maiden grass. And yes, all grasses this time of year will start doing their plumage. The pampas grass, all the miscanthus, they're just, like you said, they're just super easy and still pretty too. And you can leave, if you want, in the wintertime when they do die back, you can leave the brown foliage on them for winter interest if you like that. If not, then you can cut it back, and of course it'll.
Okay, so if you leave it, when do you cut it back?
Once a hard frost gets it and turns it brown.
Okay.
If you don't want to leave the brown foliage, just whenever the hard frost gets it and it turns brown and you can't stand the look of it, just cut it back.
And if you decide to leave it blooming, leave this up, when do you cut it back in the spring?
When you start to see green
come
out. When you start to see green come out. Yeah, yeah.
I love any plant in the mallow family, and this one has to be the most beautiful.
Yeah, this is Midnight Marvel, hardy hibiscus, and it is blooming for a second time this year. It normally blooms around July, and then when it's done, you can cut it back. I cut it back to probably about half. I'd say it was about so tall. I've cut it back to about half, and it came back and did another spectacular bloom. I mean, some of these I've already clipped off again, but yeah, it will come back and have blooms all over it, just like the first time.
And you know, when you think about it, it is a heat-loving plant.
Yes, yes.
So related to okra.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, it makes perfect sense. But sometimes it's really hard to go back in there and cut.
It is, and I know a lot of people are afraid to cut on their perennials, but it really helps them. It really does. Like I say, it makes them bloom more, makes them bush out more, just makes a nicer plant if you're not too afraid to go in there and give them a little haircut every now and then.
And after the haircut, do you fertilize it?
Not usually, no.
Okay.
No.
So just your regular watering?
Yeah, just do your regular watering. At least not for perennials. Now for annuals, I might go back and hit a little fertilizer, but for perennials, no, I just let them do their thing.
Perfect. I love it. That's the perfect pop to end with, Suzanne, because that's spectacular. And thank you for letting us come to RCS Greenhouse. It's fantastic, and you've been a wonderful help for our viewers.
Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it.
If you like gardening, you'll want to subscribe to our channel. Home gardening tips, tips from growers, and lots of plants. Until next time.